Louisiana public schools, they will be closed starting Monday. We just got word from the state on this. Let's get straight to Liz Coe for more on what this means for families across Louisiana. Liz?
Lauren, this directive coming straight from the governor's office. We just heard this in the last minute. All public schools across the state of Louisiana will be closed starting Monday, March 16th throughout April 13th. Again, all public schools across the state of Louisiana will be closed throughout that time. Monday, March 16th through April the 13th. This major decision was made as a response to the threat of the novel coronavirus. Now, the question now is, who do the children stay with throughout this break, this remainder period? Obviously, childcare is going to play a big concern in this big decision. Grandparents, in some cases, are watching children, and as we heard from the governor, from medical experts, from doctors, is that they are the target demographic for the novel coronavirus. They're the at-risk population, so that is another concern. Where are the children going to stay throughout the remainder of this break? Another big question is that a lot of the school kids in the state of Louisiana rely on the public school system for meals. We're talking breakfast and lunch, and that is through a federal program that provides breakfast and lunch to a lot of the low-income schools across the state. I understand quite a few of our schools in our viewing area have students who rely on these breakfast and lunch programs through the school districts. Again, this all stemming from that major decision coming down from the governor's office to close all Louisiana public schools starting Monday, March 16th, and that will go throughout April 13th. Of course, this is an ever-changing situation. We're going to update this story. We're going to update you right here on WAFB, but that is the latest we know right now. This breaking news: all public schools across the state of Louisiana being closed from Monday, March 16th throughout April 13th. Lauren, as soon as we learn more information, we're going to push that to our viewers through our 9 News app. Back to you.
Big news coming from our Alert Center. Thank you so much, Liz Coe. And back out here in the studio with political correspondent Matt Houston. These are some tough decisions that the governor's office they're having to make. You just got back from the Secretary of State's press conference with the elections being postponed as well. What kind of a toll is this having on the administration and the state as a whole?
Well, it's completely unprecedented, right? We've seen things like this for hurricanes, natural disasters, things of that nature, but we've never seen anything like this with a virus in Louisiana, not at least in modern times. I mean, this is something that you would almost consider like something out of the 1800s, decisions that those state leaders had to make back then. But we saw the governor have a press conference yesterday, and it's as tired as I've seen him look in some time. You know that he's meeting constantly with the Unified Command Group and with other state leaders to make these sorts of decisions like the ones he issued today to delay schools and delay the April election. So obviously lots of important information and things to consider from here on out. But yeah, it's something that he was probably not prepared for as he was reelected in November and took office now. No one saw this coming. These are crack decisions that he's had to make. That being said, so far it's important to remember that if we look back on this in a month, 2 months, 3 months, when things are quote unquote normal again, as we expect them to be, we may be looking back on this and saying this was the right decision because we took extraordinary precautions to keep the virus from spreading, and that is the governor's job, right? To keep us safe in the state of Louisiana. So that's how he has to weigh these sorts of things. You heard Liz Coe talk about free and reduced lunch programs. Those are all parts of the decisions that he's having to make right now.
And we're expecting to hear from him later today at 3 o'clock. We will also be hearing from East Baton Rouge Mayor Sharon Westenbroom around that same time on how we're being affected here locally. No cases reported here in East Baton Rouge, but 33 presumptive cases. That was the last number that we heard from the governor's office. If we can, let's pull up his Twitter account. He just issued a statement about this most recent decision, saying today that he signed this proclamation that the schools are going to be closed. He had another quote talking about, we're at an inflection point now. We're going to take bold action to minimize the further spread of this illness. All events of more than 250 people, closing schools, reducing the amount of face-to-face public interaction at state government buildings. So obviously that's a good way that you can keep up with the governor's decision there on his Twitter account. And the big headlines coming today, besides public school closures, are those postponements of the election, the April election, and that it being postponed a couple of months there, all in just taking precautions because of the coronavirus. So we'll be keeping up with this. And what do you anticipate the governor to speak about at 3 o'clock? Matt, have you heard anything else from your sources?
Well, latest news so far, and you got to think we just started the legislative session Monday, I think. I'm losing track. I would imagine there will be changes at the Capitol based on the discussions that I've heard. I can't confirm anything yet, but we're already hearing rumblings that they may close committee meetings to the public, which you can imagine why they would do that. There's also a line in here, limits on gatherings of 250 people or more statewide, which is a CDC guidance that the feds have issued to the state. So that impacts festivals, that impacts events. You can imagine that the governor will address that later on because that has a major economic impact on the state of Louisiana, especially a state that is dependent on tourism to bring in tax revenue, primarily sales tax revenue. And so this will have an impact on the state's budget. We already know oil prices have taken a hit lately, in part because of the coronavirus concerns and spats overseas. This is going to be the issue for this legislative session, and it's important that the governor and new leadership in both the House and the Senate are working together on these issues to try and come up with contingency plans, because for the foreseeable future, this is going to be unlike anything we've ever seen in Louisiana politics. There's even rumblings, too, of perhaps an emergency session so that we can get the budget passed and get that out ahead of that. But again, nothing confirmed on that. Those are conversations lawmakers are having privately amongst themselves, though.
We just got another notification, Matt, and plenty of events are doing this, that Miss LSU, they have approved to continue with the pageant there over at the university, but made the decision to have no audience. This, of course, similar to many sporting events, most sporting events at this point, when we heard yesterday that the NBA suspended its season, SEC teams across the nation not being allowed to play, or the Nashville Championship, for example, not moving forward. So again, that word just coming in from organizers of the Miss LSU pageant and organizers of the French Quarter Fest we heard today. They are postponing that festival. It's a good idea if you have anything going on with a gathering of 250 or more people to make sure that this is still happening, and take your own measures for your family to protect yourself and others around you. You can check the 9 News app for all that we know so far. The one event that I know that is still going on at this time, we haven't heard any cancellations over at Lamar Dixon as far as the festival, the Outdoorsman show going on over there, but we'll be sure to send you any alerts through the 9 News app and keep up on our social media pages if that changes. You can join us for, we're getting some word. Okay, we're going to read more from the governor here. We're getting word that he has posted more to his Twitter account. So there you see it. Louisiana Public Schools, that is the latest word coming in Monday, March 16th through April 13th. And there is the series of tweets from the governor quoting what he just sent out to us, that he is issuing this order ending all events of more than 250 people. And in a separate executive order, he'll grant the Secretary of State, Kyle Ardoin's request to move that upcoming election. And these steps are just necessary to protect the health and safety of the people of Louisiana from the coronavirus. So you can keep up with that on Governor John Bel Edwards' Twitter account. We'll continue to post updates as we get them available, and we are just now hearing also that the Miss LSU pageant has been canceled. So we were talking about earlier that the contestants would move on, but just not in front of an audience, but we just have heard that they canceled that pageant. So this is a very fluid situation as organizers learn more about what is going on with the threat of the coronavirus. We'll be sure to cut in with new developments as they become available to us at 3 o'clock once we hear more from the governor. But Matt, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll get back to regular programming.